This video accompanies part 34 of the Digital DJ Tips Learn to DJ free email course. If you haven't signed up for the course, it's free. Go and do so at digitaldjtips.com/join. You get 50 weekly modules, and as I say, this video accompanies one of them. And the module it accompanies is the one where we're talking about these microphones. What kind of DJs use microphones, how to use them, a few tips and tricks of the trade. So of course, wedding DJs, mobile DJs, these kinds of guys, they know all about microphones. Wedding DJs have microphone systems so that the best man and the father of the bride and people on wireless microphones can join in, and it's all cleverly mixed and stuff. There's skill to that. We have a wedding DJ guide which you can download. Go and look at the website if you're interested in all that kind of stuff. But we're not talking about wedding DJs, and we're not even talking about mobile DJs here, who again use the microphone a lot. You guys know your stuff. This video is not aimed at you. This video is aimed at DJs who don't think they need to use a microphone. And I'm talking mixing DJs. I'm talking most of you guys out there who are trying to learn to beat match, who are trying to learn to produce music maybe, who are trying to do mashups, who are trying to be creative, who think of yourselves as DJ artists. There's nothing wrong with that, but in the real world, you still need to know how to use one of these. And the reason is that you're in charge of the sound system. It's you that stood there. If anything needs to be put out using your voice, or a voice to those people, you're the guy who's going to do it. The busy manager is not going to say to you, okay, so your mixing is coming on fine, you're building the atmosphere nicely, but can you please hand me the microphone so that I can do? Of course he's not. He's busy, he's managing a venue. He's going to say to you, I need you to announce the police are outside, someone's got to move their car. You know, it's you that's got to do it. So it doesn't matter how you see yourself. If you're in charge of the sound system, you need to know how to use one of these. So today we're going to have a little look at just a few hints and tips to help you to not be so scared by this thing. So first thing is, where do we plug the microphone in? Now most venues will have a microphone. We'll get on to what happens if they don't and you really need one in a little while. But first thing is, where do you plug the microphone in? Well, if you're DJing with a DJ controller, most DJ controllers do have a microphone socket on them. So here's a typical DJ controller. Around the back of this one, sometimes it's on the front, sometimes it's even on the top, but normally it's on the front or the back. It's around the back on this one. There are microphone inputs, and this one actually has two, and they're here. This is an XLR socket, and this one here is a TRS socket. And they both take a microphone. These have their own volume controls. They kind of go through the mixer and they just come out the other end. Others, you need to switch them on by using a channel. And they take over one of your channels when you're using it, and you switch it back when you're finished. So that socket there is quite a typical pro microphone socket, an XLR, but you might have one that's very similar to the one on these headphones. Similar looking to that, but it'll be a mono, that's a stereo one, but similar to that. Whichever one, plug it into the socket that fits. On your DJ controller, that's one way of doing it. If you're DJing in a venue where it's very simple, they've given you a couple of leads to plug in the back, it goes straight off to the speakers, that's really your only choice, and you will use your DJ controller. Quite basic though, as you saw on the back there, there's just a little volume control, and you're not getting a lot of control over your microphone there. However, very normal, especially in smaller venues. If you're in a bigger venue and you've turned up and plugged your DJ controller into the back of their mixer, and you're operating off a channel of a DJ mixer, so here is a kind of mixer similar to the type you might see in a venue. So you're operating on a channel on the mixer. Say your DJ controller is there on that channel and you're DJing away through here. You could plug your microphone into there. That's no problem, it will still work. But what's more usual is to plug into a mixer microphone channel. Mixers have full microphone channels which have got proper EQs on them and proper faders to bring them in and out and so on. And again, they normally plug in. On this one, it's on the back. There's a microphone on the back here somewhere. There's a couple actually. Here's the microphone channels. So you're getting much fuller control over the microphone by plugging it in to the mixer. Of course, you need to know how to fade it in and fade it out because they're both operated independently. Your DJ controller's on one fader and your microphone's on another. That's going to be more usual if you're DJing in a bigger venue and you're just plugging your controller in. So there's the two ways that a microphone will get plugged into the system. Quite often in a venue, it's already all wired in anyway. It's just sat there under the console or next to the console and ready to be picked up. Next thing is, microphones have an on-off on them. If your microphone's not working, you can't work out why, check that. Keep the volume down on there, of course, or on here, the back, but check that. Make sure your microphone's switched on. To test whether the microphone's working or not, you could talk, but of course if you've got a venue that's full, it's not going to happen. You could preview it if you're using a mixer. You can plug your headphones in and switch the microphone to a preview channel and try and get it through your headphones and stuff. Sometimes you've got no time to do that, sometimes you're in a rush. One little tip is just to tap it. Just tap the microphone, turn it up a little bit and tap it, because you can hear the tap, you're listening out for it. So you can hear the tap through the system, but your crowd probably won't. Just give it a quick tap and see if you can hear that it's working okay. So you've got a microphone, it's turned on. The really important thing to remember about microphones is you stick a microphone near a speaker and it's going to feed back. It's going to be that horrible high-pitched noise. The way to avoid that is, if there's any monitor speakers in the DJ booth, turn them down temporarily while you're using the microphone. If there are no monitor speakers and you just set up with your own gear and speakers pointing out at the crowd, step back a bit. You want to get the microphone as far away from the speakers as possible, and so it's the opposite of pointing at them, if you like, so you're behind the speakers. So any small movements you can make, small movements often make a big change. Just get yourself as far away from the speakers as you can. You want as little of the sound going into your mic as possible. And again, on the volume control, as you're fading the microphone in, be careful not to go too high. You turn any microphone up loud enough, it'll start to feed back. So be careful to keep it below the point where it does. And if you hear it, just turn it down. To be properly heard, there's two tips really. The first tip is to speak much slower than you normally would. Speak like you feel stupid. Speak really slowly like this. Now, I tend to talk quicker than I should on these videos. However, I'm still aware of talking a little bit more clearly than I would normally in my home. But if you're in a venue where it's very loud and you've got a microphone which is probably not very good quality, is a good example, it's a rubbish microphone, it was just the nearest one I had, and you're talking over music and so on, and there's crowd noise, you've got to talk slowly and clearly to have any chance of being heard. I'm sure you've all heard mobile DJs, and you're like, what? You know, it's really amateur. Talk much slower than you think. As soon as you're starting to feel stupid, that's slow enough. And reduce the volume of the music. Now, there's nothing wrong with turning it off to use a microphone, but turn it up down a lot, at least half. You know, some DJs get away with a third with a good microphone. They know how to do things to get them heard, but generally turn it down at least halfway. Don't worry if you decide to turn it off. It's an important thing you have to say or whatever. So it's all right. You can turn it on again afterwards, but don't give people more than one thing to listen to. If you need them to hear you, make sure they hear you. Get it over with. Get back to what you're there for. Okay, one final tip about microphones. Now, there's often situations where you really need to get on the microphone for some reason and no one's got one. And I'm thinking about things like at the end of a really, really jumping night, you have DJ'd your heart out, everyone's screaming, and you know that next Saturday you're playing somewhere else. Well, you could just leave it, or you could get on the microphone and tell him. Now, if it was me, I'd tell him. I've DJ'd places where I got on the mic at the end of a set. I DJ'd at a festival once, 10,000 people there, and I was lucky enough to be playing the last set, but it was daytime. So this was only like 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. And it got to the end of the set, and I just had to tell the crowd that I was playing somewhere else that night. I had a small club night around the corner, and I just knew I had to do it. But I didn't have a microphone. So this is how I did it, and this is how you can do it, and it's a little trick of the trade. These things, headphones, are 90% the same as these things. They have what's called a diaphragm in them, and that makes the noise. But if you make noise at the diaphragm, the opposite happens and it comes out this end. It works both ways. So you can use one of these as a headphone if you want. Plug it into your headphone socket and give it a try. It's crazy but true. But the other way round, you can use a pair of these, and we all have these with us at all times, as a microphone. So all you do is plug it into the microphone socket, and just don't worry about the technical side of it, but what will happen is one of these will work and one won't. One is the microphone and one's not. So you need to test it, which one is which. And then you can just go like this and talk into it like this, and it'll work. It'll sound all right. You get your message across. So I hope you found something useful here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you for watching.